Hello. Welcome to a review of some of the most common and interesting questions that we hear from customers. In today's Express webinar, we'll talk about our account management function and address some of the things that a lot of customers are wondering, but not everyone is actually asking. We hope it's valuable, but if nothing else, we hope that it at least makes you think of something else that we should be talking about with you. My name is Jay Wells. I'm the Vice President of Customer Advocacy here at mindSHIFT. I have enjoyed 10 years here and very much enjoyed the chance to interact, support, and advise many of our customers. And I'm very excited to get to talk with you this afternoon. Let's do a quick review of our agenda. We'll talk about what an account manager, well, I'll also refer to them as an AM. We'll talk about what an AM is really designed to do, how we believe that's valuable, and then we'll get to the main attraction, which is the questions that we hear often. Our AMs are focused on managing post-sales relationships and on overseeing our service delivery quality. We work very, very closely with our designated customer points of contact, more so than we do with end users. Most of the interaction our end users have is with our reactive centers, customer care in particular. You'll find as you work with one of our account managers that we are focused on doing the right things to be your IT partner for the next 10 years instead of the next 10 months. So we like to take a long-term view. And as we do that, we are often valuable in helping move resources around, and we're often valuable in tackling questions or issues that don't easily fit into the service model. So if we're really never sure where something goes, then we tend to ask an account manager to look into it. I wanted to highlight the last bullet on this slide, which is how we measure the success of our account managers. We do it based on customer retention, customer growth, and customer satisfaction, not on commission sales. So if you find that we are making a recommendation to you, I want you to feel confident that your account manager is doing what he or she really believes is in your best interest, and their success is only if you're happy. As we think about some of the ways that we've seen customers derive benefit from working with their account manager, there are a few high-level thoughts that we came up with, but some of the interesting examples I wanted to take a minute and talk you through. As we looked about increasing efficiency from being involved with an account manager, my favorite example of this is one of our AMs once identified with one of our customers that this one issue that was recurring, and this customer was calling into our help desk about several times a day on some days. We discovered that they could make changes that resolved it in a self-service model. So even at our fastest, right, if you call our help desk, then there is some time for you to dial the phone number, and it takes us a little bit to answer. So we were able to turn the turnaround time for that issue from still short, but to absolutely zero. So the customer was ecstatic about that. We talk a lot about promoting customer intimacy as well, and an example of that, albeit a more general one than my last example, is that your AM is often who will lead the company through facilitating a customer-specific process across our reactive support centers. So if there's a nuance that we really need to absorb that's just for you, then your AM is probably going to lead that effort. We spend a lot of time working as we think about creative solutions to chronic problems. Our account managers spend a lot of time trying to bridge our reactive support and the insight and the expertise that's there with our proactive technology steering to find problems, find solutions, and get it all delivered in the right context for you. The last benefit that we thought was most interesting to highlight was your account manager should help you maximize the value of all the dollars that you spend with mindSHIFT. We should be, from an account management perspective, discussing with you the full portfolio of service and technology offerings that we have, again, from the perspective of a trusted advisor. So with that, let's get to the main attraction. These are the top 5 most frequently asked questions that we hear as account managers and what we believe are useful answers to them. So let's get started. Question number 1, does mindSHIFT make me HIPAA compliant or PCI compliant? There are several other compliance guidelines that you might ask about instead of HIPAA or PCI. This is a very prevalent question these days, and a lot of it is about security. We have many customers who are HIPAA compliant and many who are PCI compliant. So my message to you would be that we can absolutely support you if that's a requirement, and we can be valuable if you have that requirement. Many of the specifics that will enable you to meet that level, though, are entirely up to you. So we can help you implement systems to enforce those policies that you need to have in place, and we can help you maintain them. But some of the decisions and the configurations will absolutely require your direction. For example, some of these things require that certain information is encrypted if it's sent via email, and we can help you implement an email encryption system. We can't necessarily make you use it, but we can certainly help you. We can help you implement one, and we can make sure that it's working properly. If you're really not sure where to start about this, a good first step is to engage with mindSHIFT, call your account manager, and also engage with a third-party consultant who specializes in whatever the regulatory compliance is that's important to you. We can support systems, needs, and collaborate with that regulatory or business process consultant, and together you will have a very strong team. Question number 2, how does the cloud work? Well, you could certainly write a couple of books about this, but I'm going to do my best to boil it down to you in well under 2 minutes. So it's a great question. One answer to it is that the cloud works really, really well in the right situations. And as the technology advances, the number of situations where it's a great fit continues to grow really, really rapidly. As you think about the cloud, in some cases people refer to all of this as something as a service. Could be software as a service, or backup as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. Almost anything that you see that ends in a, capital S. Now a quick aside, and oddly enough, there are people who pronounce the last S in that differently depending on what it is sometimes. So for backup as a service, which is BAAS, a lot of times people make the last S sound like a Z, so it's BAS. If it's software as a service, it's almost always pronounced SaaS. And I have no idea why this happens, but the entire industry is delivering accidental brand imprints for this big software company here in North Carolina called SAS. Now, the short answer to the real question about how does the cloud work is the following. The cloud takes computing power that we all used to have to purchase and own for ourselves, and it lets us use that computing power as a service that's managed by another party. So a lot like a utility, like electricity. Now, sometimes those services are free, but the free ones are usually consumer-grade services like Hotmail or Evernote. A lot of cloud services have consumer-grade versions for free, and then they hope you will upgrade to some corporate-grade service. Gmail does that, and Dropbox is another really prevalent example of that. Antivirus solutions like Trend Micro or Symantec are also examples of the idea of having a free consumer-grade version and a corporate-grade version that carries a fee. Now, so far, everything I've mentioned we would call a public cloud offering. So that really means anybody has access to it, although you might have to pay for it. In some other instances, cloud services are very specifically tied to services that organizations have historically had to own and maintain their own servers for. For example, mindSHIFT offers a service that lets you take the file server that you've had in your office forever and access that file server as a service in our in-house cloud infrastructure. Now in that case, it's a specific installation of a Windows server that only your company has access to. To your end users, it looks and feels exactly like the old file server always did, but the difference is you're paying us a monthly fee instead of buying the hardware, worrying about a warranty, and making sure it's supported. By the way, we call that CloudShift Server. There are other companies who offer similar things as a way for companies to utilize servers that are just for those companies in particular without buying hardware. We have good partnerships with two of the leaders in that space to make those services available to our customers through mindSHIFT. Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure are the two I'm really thinking about there. Again, the better the technology gets, the more things will make sense to use in a cloud structure. Servers for file storage and file access are an obvious one, but another one is the Windows desktop that your users interact with to launch a web browser or read email or create documents or use many other applications with. Hosting that desktop is gaining a lot of traction in the marketplace. We've seen a lot of customers leverage this hosted desktop as a way to get longer life out of old workstations. It's a really great opportunity for a lot of scenarios. Now, having said all of that, the real question again is, how does it work? The answer is that a cloud provider, which could be mindSHIFT, could be Amazon, could be Salesforce.com, could be lots and lots of others, the cloud provider will give you instructions about how to access their cloud offering based on your requirements and based on the solution that you've agreed to. You will, in fact, need to have an internet connection, and you'll need to have something on the device that you're physically touching that lets you connect to the cloud service over that internet connection. In a lot of cases, it's just a web browser, and you access the service through a URL like Dropbox.com on your computer. In a lot of other cases, the cloud service provider will ask you to download and install a small piece of client software that acts like a conduit back to the cloud service. Citrix is an example of that. So if you are going to access our hosted desktop, you'll need to install a very small footprint Citrix client to access it. Antivirus software is another example of that. The client that's on your device gets you connected to the cloud service and shows you the information or gets you the access to the services that you're entitled to. Question number 3. This is an unfortunate question, but it does happen. The question is, how could I have gotten a virus? Don't we have antivirus? mindSHIFT, don't you deliver antivirus protection to us? And the answer is, we do in fact provide and manage antivirus software for your workstations and for your servers. As a quick aside, on top of that, we also provide spam filtering that helps screen out a lot of the threats that get emailed to you. But even with all of those, you're never totally safe. And here's the problem. The antivirus companies are always, and by definition, a little bit behind these horribly dangerous and annoying people who write malware and then try to distribute it. The best the AV companies can do really is to monitor systems and problems all over the world and catch new threats that come up as quickly as they possibly can. So over time, they monitor where different threats are coming up and how much. Then they make decisions about which threats are still the most likely to hit and have some negative impact, and they keep those threats in their virus definition files. Over time, they start to remove other threats that either are old and don't come up anymore, or they just don't think are really going to be problems. Our solution to this is we deploy Trend Micro. We've studied repeatedly over the years, and we've found every time we've studied it that Trend Micro is as good or better than any of the other Tier 1 providers that we look at, like Symantec. But even with that, there are times when one of these antivirus solutions will catch a virus that another one will miss. So it is conceivable that if you've got Symantec on your machine, that you could get a virus that you wouldn't get if you had Trend Micro on it, and vice versa. It's relatively rare, but it can happen. There's actually a great website called virustotal.com that you can upload a file to it, and it'll run the file through a bunch of different antivirus packages and show you how many of the different antivirus engines think that the file you uploaded is actually malware. So all of that is one way you can still get a virus. There are some other threats, though, that antivirus software can't really catch. The most common one of these that we've seen recently over the last months and maybe last year and a half or so is called CryptoLocker. So hopefully you've never had it, but the chances are overwhelming that at least a few of you have. CryptoLocker is that awful business where somebody manages to encrypt your files and then leave you a message that says you have to pay them to get the key to unlock the files. We have been exploring a way to mitigate that, and we believe we have one that will not prevent it entirely, because nothing ever will prevent it entirely, but something that we think will make it much, much harder for you to get infected by CryptoLocker. We're very close to deploying it, so please stay tuned, and you'll hear from us in the next few weeks about it. But for now, when CryptoLocker hits, the best thing we can do is go to our server data backup and restore the files that are encrypted from some time before they were actually infected. That works really, really well. The downside to it is you have a risk of some data loss. So if the file is changed in between when we last back it up and when it gets infected, you could lose those changes. I say this a lot, but the best defense you can ever have against viruses is simply to avoid clicking on the bad stuff. The challenge with that is the bad guys are getting better and better all the time at tricking you into clicking links and emails, and in some cases even they just take over ads on websites that are otherwise harmless. So if you can help it at all, the advice we always give to anybody who will listen is not to click on a link or even click on an attachment in an email unless you're expecting it. If you really don't know exactly what it is, then it's best not to touch it until you found out what it is. Even PDFs like Adobe Reader files have become a way for malware to get distributed. Also, and obviously, if you can avoid it, don't go to websites that you really don't have to go to for work. But after all of that, if you do in fact get a virus, we can help you clean it or rebuild your machine if your machine is really totaled, although that situation is comparatively very rare. Question number 4. My company has offices in multiple time zones. How do you guys handle that? Great question. The answer is our Customer Care Center and our Network Operations Center are both staffed with engineers on active shifts 24/7/365. So that's the short answer. A more involved answer is that I would encourage you to talk with your account manager about whatever the unique needs are of your different offices, and we will do our best to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep them productive. Our full business hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., but thanks to the 24/7 model we have in place, we can work with you about whatever is best for your business. That's actually the shortest answer to our 5 questions. Question number 5, on budget planning. What gear do I need to consider replacing, and what else should I be thinking about? We love to help with budget planning. It is one of our favorite things to do. And your account manager is a great person to talk to, and your AM can lead the team who will help you through all the budget planning. We always suggest an evaluation of hardware during budget planning cycles. And the truth is, in most cases, your hardware is fine for another year. But once your hardware reaches a certain age, 2 things happen. One is the warranties start to become expensive. And the bad news about that is that when gear is that old, it tends to actually break down enough that you actually need the warranty. So we'll help you plan for the best use of your budget dollars, and we'll, of course, work with you to balance it against the risk of having problems with specific gear that's getting a little long in the tooth. It's important to remember that this hardware is in fact a physical product, and so it's subject to wear and tear just like anything else. If you're having the thought that this server has worked great for 6 years, so why in the world would it start breaking now, I would advise you that that's a risky line of thinking. If we're doing budget planning with you, we will strongly suggest that you plan to replace anything that's no longer supported by the hardware or software vendor who makes it. For example, Microsoft has recently stopped support for a couple of their big products in the last year and a half or so. Windows XP is one of those. Windows Server 2003 is another one, and there are some others. And I've said that we love to help with budget planning, and truthfully, this is really the most fun we get to have. We will likely be able to discuss with you several options about the best way to get the services you want, whether that means you're buying hardware, whether that means you're keeping what you have, whether you're using one of those as a service cloud offerings, or if you're just getting more done with less gear. So consolidation is usually an interesting part of budget planning. This is also a really good time to brainstorm about other problems in your business and talk with us about whether or not we can deliver technology and services that can help support your efforts to solve those problems. The breadth and the depth of what we can do may in fact surprise you. So I always suggest to customers that they ask us first and see if we can be valuable with whatever they're worried about. So that's 5 questions. Now, here at mindSHIFT, we always like to exceed expectations. So in so much as we promised 5 questions, here's a bonus. Bonus, question number 6, who should I call at mindSHIFT and when? The answer is we try very hard to strike the right balance between making our points of contact comfortable and familiar with the breadth of our support team and drowning them in org charts. So here's my general suggestion. If something is broken and it needs to get fixed now, if there's smoke coming out of a server or if there's a workstation that won't turn on, then the best call you can make is to our Customer Care Center. They're always staffed, and they can always help us get started with whatever the problem is. Your account manager, on the other hand, is a great place to start if you have a question or you're concerned about anything that's going to impact our business relationship, or if you want to start planning for an upcoming project, or if you have questions about fees or invoices. Now, your AM won't necessarily handle all of those things directly, but he or she will make sure you get to the right place. In a lot of cases, our customers also have direct and frequent interactions with a more technical resource than an account manager, maybe a technical account manager or a virtual CIO or a technology consultant. And that's also great, but if you're not sure, you can always ask your account manager. AMs are also good people to loop in for anything that seems strange or seems out of scope, or it might be intensely sensitive. Sometimes we get questions about how to deal with personnel issues, terminations in particular. So if nobody is sure where or how we should address something, then your AM will be the lead in figuring out how we should approach it. The thing I would encourage you to remember is that outside of our centers, there's a chance we could be slower to respond than you need. So your AM, for example, could be in a meeting, and that's why we always suggest that real-time problems go to the customer care center. Each of our designated points of contact should also have an escalation list with management contacts so that if you need to for some reason, you can get to an escalated resource quickly. When it comes to our end users, we always encourage them to feel comfortable escalating issues through the help desk. So you can always ask for a manager when you're working with us, especially if you're not 100% sure we're doing the right thing, or if you're not sure that we've really understood the level of urgency or time sensitivity around an issue. Thanks again for joining. We are always eager to help you derive the most value you can from the investment you're making with mindSHIFT. So I wanted to try to reinforce a few ideas there. One, I would encourage you to take advantage of the service reviews that we want to do with you. There's a lot of information we can bring to light, and the collaboration between you and your AM is often really, really valuable. I would also encourage you to discuss services and questions outside of your current work with us, especially if you are trying to get something implemented or trying to make something work and it's not really going very well. But with that in mind, I would ask you this. What else would you like to ask your account manager? If you think of something, then please go ahead and call us. And we will be always happy to hear from you and do the very best we can. Now, you've heard me mention a couple times that we try to expose you to the depth and breadth of our technology and our services that we can bring to the table. So I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't present you with the following quadrant of services and technologies. What you'll find is that as one of the largest IT outsourcing and cloud services providers serving the small and mid-sized businesses, that we really can do a lot. And we've got a very, very solid mix of size and stability and ability to deliver diverse things. And that mixed with strong customer intimacy and the sort of focus and relationship that you would find from a company who is much, much, much smaller than we are. We like to think that you'll get everything you need from us through IT outsourcing and cloud services at the right price, and we want to keep you up and running. We're interested in resolving your problems quickly and through personal attention if we need to. A lot of our customers work with us in one of these 4 boxes, but not always all 4. So as you look at it, between managed IT services, things like workstation support, server support, do you have a need or an interest for us to do technology steering or to consult with you in some detail really about your cloud strategy? Do you have a piece of gear that you're afraid to have in your office anymore and you'd like for us to house it in one of our data centers? We could certainly do that for you. And as we've talked about, we do a lot of cloud services directly and with a couple of very, very high-end partners like Amazon. Okay, thanks so much for joining today. I would love for you to take advantage of more information that we can share with you through our website, including our technology blog. And we also share a lot of industry news through social media. So please go look us up there. Thanks again.